Because at the end of the day, America is going to want a president who is a decent human being, who doesn't shit on other people, who has some interest in the American people, some interest in something beyond himself. I think at the end of the day, people are going to reject this bigoted, divisive figure.
I'm just giving you the answer to the question you're asking all night long. Why do they vote for Donald Trump? It's not always because they like him. No. It's because stuff like that is kookier.
Bill Maher just unleashed a scathing roast on Schiff, torching the California senator over his endless flailing crusade against Donald Trump. The takedown was so sharp, don't be surprised if Schiff never sets foot on Maher's set again. If this kind of unfiltered heat is your thing, hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next.
I think it's true justice. The only thing he cares about is himself and money, and going after the money is a way to bring about some real justice.
Schiff opened the evening with his usual barrage of attacks on Donald Trump, painting him as a narcissist obsessed only with himself. He doubled down, declaring Trump guilty of every accusation thrown his way and insisting he was utterly unfit to lead. With theatrical flair, Schiff cast Trump as a dire threat to democracy, warning that his return to power would be catastrophic. It was classic Schiff, big on drama, short on evidence, and drenched in political theater. But then came the real misstep, a statement so bold it's bound to haunt him.
I don't share your pessimism about this or your pessimism about the general election. The reason why Joe Biden is going to beat Donald Trump is because at the end of the day, America is going to want a president who is a decent human being, who doesn't shit on other people, who has some interest in the American people, some interest in something beyond himself. I think at the end of the day, people are going to reject this bigoted, divisive figure.
Schiff kept the tirade rolling, throwing every insult imaginable at Donald Trump in a last-ditch effort to discredit him. But the moment that's likely making him sweat the most is bold prediction that Joe Biden would easily win the election. Fast forward to today, Trump is president again, and Schiff's smug forecast has aged like milk. Now he's left looking foolish, backpedaling, and grasping for excuses. It's political karma in real time, and watching it unfold is downright satisfying. Even Bill Maher and Stephen A. Smith looked over it. Maher kept his composure just barely, but Stephen couldn't help himself. He finally let loose.
And I'm just getting tired of seeing so much stuff targeted in his direction, but somehow, some way he still survives. I mean, we're talking about a situation where he's still going to be the GOP nominee. He's still going to be running for president. You're President Biden. That's the individual that you're going to have to beat. 4 indictments, 91 counts. They ain't even bringing up the bankruptcies, ain't even bringing up this particular issue with this civil case. And somehow, some way, he puts cats to shame because he clearly has more than 9 lives. I mean, come on.
Before Bill Maher even has a chance to speak, Stephen A. Smith storms in swinging. He calls out Schiff and his political allies for their relentless, years-long crusade to destroy Donald Trump. They've thrown the full arsenal at him: media hit jobs, non-stop investigations, ancient scandals dredged from the past, and over-the-top comparisons to history's darkest figures. They called him Hitler, branded him a threat to democracy, and accused him of just about everything under the sun. And yet, Trump endures. Not only has he survived, but he's thrived. Against all odds, he's still standing, louder, sharper, and more defiant than ever. Trump is the unsolvable equation that Democrats and their media echo chamber just can't crack. Every time they claim it's over, he roars back bigger than before. Love him or loathe him, he's become the political phenomenon they simply can't shut down, and that fact is driving them mad. Sick of the same tired anti-Trump talking points, Maher finally jumped in, and what followed was nothing short of a demolition job.
Atlantic put out an article last year, and it was called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense." Right. And talked about how we separate sports like the WNBA and the just because it's just socialization. This is insane.
I agree.
Okay. That's why people vote for Trump. Mm-hmm. Because there's stuff like that on the left that people just go, I know Trump's horrible, but separating by sports by sex makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. And if you think it doesn't, you can't leave the country.
Maher didn't hold back. He went straight for the jugular, telling Schiff exactly why voters keep choosing Donald Trump. No fluff, no filter. Maher slammed the Democrats for pushing empty policies, clinging to tone-deaf ideologies, and becoming increasingly disconnected from the realities of everyday Americans. His prime example? The left's crusade to erase biological differences in sports, insisting men and women compete in the same categories. To most people, Maher argued, that isn't progressive, it's absurd. Worse, it insults basic common sense. But instead of listening to public backlash, Democrats brushed off legitimate concerns as bigotry and doubled down, alienating even their own base. Maher made it clear, this kind of ideological overreach doesn't win minds, it drives people away. And it's sending voters, even the hesitant ones, straight into Trump's camp. Because when faced with the choice between ideological chaos and someone who at least acknowledges reality, voters will take reality every single time.
Senator Schiff, given the ongoing political tensions and Trump's actions toward his critics, do you think President Biden's preemptive pardons turned out to be more important than initially expected? Let's first tell people what that means, preemptive pardons. That was pretty unprecedented, right? Before he left office, Joe Biden pardoned you and a number of people who he thought Trump would go after.
No, I take the opposite view. I don't think he should have given the pardons at all.
Really?
No, I don't think he should have, and I was vocal about that at the time.
Can you refuse a pardon?
That's less clear because in the case of the January 6th committee, he pardoned essentially the whole committee.
Wait, did Senator Adam Schiff just throw President Biden under the bus? Because that's exactly what it sounded like. Schiff, a key figure in the January 6th committee, conveniently received a pardon, along with several others on the panel who spent months pointing fingers and assigning blame for the Capitol chaos. But here's where it gets murky. If the committee's actions were truly above board, if their findings were bulletproof and their motives pure, then why did Biden feel the need to hand out preemptive pardons at all? Now Schiff is acting like the pardon was unnecessary, subtly implying that Biden misstepped, without saying it outright. But the subtext is deafening. In trying to distance himself from the political fallout, Schiff is casting doubt on the very man who shielded him. It's classic DC politics. Take the cover when it's convenient, then feign independence when things start to stink. Schiff may think he's playing it smart, but the cracks are obvious, and Biden's camp can't be happy with the signal it sends. Bill Maher, never one to let hypocrisy slide, calls Schiff out and turns his fire on the media, torching them for their selective silence and shameless bias.
So the FBI came in and arrested the judge. No, I haven't heard that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever read arrested a judge. So is this significant?
Well, I think
I'm not going to comment on something I don't know more about than what you've just told me.
You read about it too.
Yeah, I mean, I read about it, but I don't know.
So you don't trust anything either, and you work for the New York Times.
Even Bret Stephens, yes, a columnist for the New York Times, can't fully trust his own paper. Let that sink in. When insiders start questioning the credibility of their own newsroom, you know the rot runs deep. This is exactly why millions of Americans, including Donald Trump, have turned to independent and alternative media. A sad truth? Nearly every major outlet in the country seems compromised, especially by the left. Once respected institutions that were meant to challenge power have instead become its loudest cheerleaders, trading journalism for agenda. What used to be a noble craft has devolved into political theater, an echo chamber where narratives trump facts and dissent is treated like heresy. Each new crack in the legacy media facade only proves what many have suspected all along. If you're looking for truth, you won't find it in the establishment.
Schools are popular now, even with people who aren't Catholic, because it's the last place you can send your kid to get an old school education. And they just tell the kids, forget about the Jesus stuff. Just, to them, that's okay indoctrination, as opposed to some of the other indoctrination that goes on. And also, the Catholics don't put up with bullshit. They take your phone. You have to learn your P's and Q's and your grammar and all this kind of stuff. And that's what I just don't understand, that parents don't have the whip hand anymore. Not that you should actually use a whip. And I don't have kids, so I don't know that firsthand, but every movie and TV show that has a teenager in it cannot be mischaracterizing this. And the kids they don't listen to their parents, they turn their back on them, they walk out of the room, things that would just get me shut down when I was.
We all remember when the unraveling began, when the Democratic Party fully embraced woke ideology and tossed morality and common sense out the window. That's when the cultural nosedive started. Suddenly, children were treated like miniature adults and parents, especially fathers, were reduced to clueless punchlines. Family TV shows became subtle indoctrination tools. The bumbling dad, the barely capable mom, and the all-knowing child who outsmarted them both. What began as lighthearted tropes turned into a full-blown rewrite of traditional family dynamics. Entertainment gave way to agenda, and the consequences were real. We'd raised a generation convinced that authority is oppressive and accountability is optional. Discipline became taboo. Boundaries disappeared. The family structure was mocked, not modeled. What once anchored society, moral clarity and shared values, was replaced by shallow performative progressivism. And now, we're living with the fallout, the chaos, the confusion, the collapse in trust. These cultural shifts helped pave the road to the Democrats' loss in the 2024 elections. And don't take it from conservatives, just listen to what one of their own said in the lead-up.
I respect the fact that you don't share my pessimism. I truly do. I understand where you're coming from. But I think that's part of the problem. I think the Democratic Party should share my pessimism. I think they should be on high alert. I think they need to treat him with the seriousness that it deserves, because you having a lot of faith in the American people. The man did get over 74 million votes. You've got people that are looking at Joe Biden. I'm not going to call him a cognitive mess or anything like that. That's very disrespectful. I would never speak about our president that way. But when you're 82 years of age, it's not offensive to say you're no longer a spring chicken and you don't seem.
Aside from their questionable ideologies, Schiff and his allies spent years assuring the American public that Joe Biden was mentally capable of leading the country. Despite growing concerns and warnings from both sides of the political spectrum, they pushed forward with unwavering confidence, shielding him from criticism and dismissing clear signs of cognitive decline. They insisted everything was fine. It wasn't. By the time reality hit, it was too late. When it became undeniably clear that Biden couldn't fulfill his role, panic set in. Their solution? Kamala Harris. In an attempt to salvage their credibility, they elevated her to the forefront, only to realize it was one of their biggest political miscalculations. Her approval ratings plummeted, her public appearances became more of a liability, and her leadership, if we can even call it that, only made things worse. Once a party known for its strategic approach, the Democrats found themselves out of moves. Now they're left trying to clean up a mess they made themselves. In the end, they're reaping the consequences of their own actions, pushing divisive ideologies, ignoring common sense, supporting an unfit president, and scrambling with Kamala Harris as a last-ditch effort. They alienated the very voters they claim to represent. Bill Maher and Stephen A. Smith's growing frustration reflects a larger shift. Americans are fed up with being manipulated. They're done with the media spin, the political theater, and the endless deflection. Donald Trump's resilience isn't just about him. It's about a nation that's finally pushing back against a broken system. The left tried to control the narrative, but reality has spoken louder than ever. Now, even their own voices are starting to question everything they once defended. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.